This story is titled, My Wife's Intentional Lies in Court About Her Son Led to My Prison Cell. After my lawyer forced a DNA test revealing another man as the father in 6 months of freedom, I'm starting to execute my revenge plan. Hey Reddit, I'm a 34-year-old former military man who transitioned to private security contracting after spending 8 years in the Marines. During my service, I completed 3 combat tours overseas before switching to the private sector in search of better money. My primary goal was always to provide stability for my family. I've always been the provider type. Physical fitness has been a cornerstone of my life since I was 17. I've maintained a consistent 5-day-a-week gym routine all these years. I own my house outright, drive sensible cars rather than flashy ones, and invest my money wisely instead of wasting it on designer items or status symbols. I met Olivia when I was 25, right as I was transitioning out of the military. She worked as a receptionist at a dentist's office and seemed incredibly sweet and down-to-earth at the time. Coming from a middle-class family, she had accumulated some college debt, which I helped her pay off. From all appearances, she had normal, reasonable life goals that aligned with mine. Boy, was I wrong about everything. You know those movie moments where everything seems to go into slow motion when a character's whole world falls apart? Yeah, that's not how it happened in real life. Reality hits way harder and way faster than any dramatic cinematic portrayal. It was a Tuesday. I remember it specifically because Tuesdays were always my longest workdays. 14-hour executive protection shifts for a paranoid tech CEO who was convinced everyone was out to get him. I'd been wearing a 25-pound tactical vest all day in 95-degree heat, and my shoulders were on fire from the strain. All I wanted was a hot shower, and maybe an hour with my 4-year-old daughter, Lily, before her bedtime. I had even stopped at the overpriced Thai restaurant that Olivia loved on my way home, dropping $75 on her favorite dishes, including pad thai with extra peanut sauce. It's funny how you remember these useless details when your life is falling apart. Olivia had been distant for months, barely talking to me, always glued to her phone. But I was still trying to make things work. The military taught me never to give up, right? I walked through the door at 8:45 p.m. to find Olivia sprawled on our $3,000 leather couch that I had paid for, scrolling through Instagram like it was her full-time job. She didn't even look up when I put the Thai food on the coffee table. "I want a divorce," she said flatly. Just like that. 4 words. She didn't even put her phone down while destroying our family. 7 years together, 5 years of marriage, and a daughter we both adored, or so I thought. She couldn't even give me the basic respect of eye contact. I stood there like an idiot, still in my tactical pants and company polo, watching the Thai food getting cold on the table. "What?" was all I could manage to say. "You heard me," she replied, still scrolling through her phone. "I've already talked to a lawyer. Here's what's going to happen." Then she finally looked up from her phone, and I saw an expression on her face that made my blood run cold. She was enjoying this. She proceeded to list off her demands like she was ordering at Starbucks. The house, the one I bought with my military savings, the Audi that I paid for, primary custody of Lily, and $3,400 a month in child support. Keep in mind that I was already paying for everything in our lives. The $2,600 mortgage, both car payments, $620 for her Audi, and $340 for my Toyota. Lily's private preschool at $1,500 per month, ballet classes at $180 per month, all utilities, all groceries, her gym membership, $165 per month for some fancy women's-only place, and what she called her self-care expenses, weekly manicures, monthly massages, and hair appointments that cost more than my car payment. "You're basically asking for everything," I said, trying to keep my voice level. 8 years of military discipline helps you keep your cool, even when your world is imploding around you. She just shrugged, finally putting her phone down. "That's what my lawyer says I can get." Then she added, "Oh, and I want to adjust the custody schedule. Every other weekend for you should be enough." Every other weekend? I lost it there. Not violently, I've never been that type of guy. But I couldn't hold back anymore. Are you kidding me? I'm the one who takes her to school every morning. I'm the one who stays up with her when she's sick. I'm the one who taught her to swim, who reads her stories, who takes her to the park every weekend while you're at your yoga class. Olivia just picked her phone back up, completely unbothered by my outburst. "Yeah, well, the courts usually favor the mother. My lawyer says it's pretty standard." That's when I noticed something else that felt like another punch to the gut. Lily wasn't home. It was 9 p.m. on a Tuesday, and our 4-year-old wasn't in bed where she should have been. "Where's Lily?" I asked, suddenly alarmed. "At my mom's." "I figured this conversation might get emotional," she replied with calculated coolness. She'd planned this whole thing. She probably had the script ready for weeks. There I was, still holding the stupid Thai food bag, thinking I could fix whatever was wrong in our marriage. I set the food down, my appetite completely gone. "How long have you been planning this?" She gave me a smirk that made my blood boil. "Long enough to know what I'm entitled to." Entitled. That word hit me like a punch to the gut. After everything I'd done, everything I'd sacrificed, she felt entitled to the life I'd built. "I need some air," I said, turning to leave. I couldn't stand being in the same room with her anymore. "Don't forget to pick up your things from the master bedroom," she called after me. "I've moved them to the guest room." I spent that night driving around the city, trying to make sense of what had happened. My phone kept buzzing with texts from Olivia, each one more demanding than the last. "When will you be back? We need to discuss details. My lawyer wants to meet Monday. Be available. I expect you to be civil about this. Lily doesn't need to see Daddy having a meltdown." That last one nearly made me drive my car off the road. She was already using Lily as a weapon against me. That's when I knew this wouldn't be a clean break. The next few weeks were a blur of lawyer meetings and paperwork everywhere as I watched Olivia systematically dismantle the life we'd built together. She moved me into the guest room and started going out more than ever. Every time I asked about Lily, it was always "she's at mom's" or "she's having a play date." My first meeting with my lawyer, Thomas, was a serious wake-up call. He'd been recommended by an old military buddy who'd gone through a similar situation. "Look," Thomas said, leafing through the initial paperwork Olivia's lawyer had sent. "I'm not going to sugarcoat this. The demands she's making are excessive, but not unheard of. California family courts tend to favor mothers unless there's clear evidence of unfitness. But I'm the primary caregiver," I insisted, leaning forward in my chair. "I'm the one who's there for Lily day in and day out. Olivia's barely home 3 nights a week with all her classes and girls' nights out." Thomas sighed, taking off his glasses and rubbing the bridge of his nose. "Do you have documentation of that? Calendars, text messages, witness statements?" I didn't have any documentation. Like an idiot, I had never thought I'd need to keep receipts on my own marriage. I'd never imagined that I would need proof of my role as a father. "Start documenting everything now," Thomas advised, leaning back in his leather chair. "Every time she leaves Lily with someone else, every time she breaks a commitment, every penny you spend on the household. We're going to need all of it." Meanwhile, Olivia was painting a very different picture for anyone who would listen. According to her version of events, I was a controlling military type who never gave her freedom and used money to keep her dependent. It was the absolute opposite of reality. But her friends ate it up. Even some of our mutual friends started looking at me differently. The first custody exchange after our temporary schedule was established is burned into my memory forever. Olivia pulled up in my Audi. I still can't believe I was paying for that thing. Wearing $230 Lululemon leggings and some designer workout top. Lily ran to me the second she saw me. I hadn't been allowed to see her for almost 2 weeks at that point. Olivia just stood there tapping her foot like we were inconveniencing her. "Here's her bag," she said, practically throwing it at me. "I've packed her medicine for her allergies. Don't forget to give it to her exactly at 8 a.m. and 8 p.m., and she needs to be in bed by 8:30. No sugar after 6, no screen time after 7. And make sure she does her ballet stretches." I just stared at her in disbelief. I'd been handling Lily's medicine schedule for the past 2 years because Olivia couldn't deal with the stress of remembering it. I was the one who figured out her allergy triggers, found the right doctor, and set up the whole routine. "Anything else you want to explain to me about my own daughter?" I asked, barely containing my frustration. She just gave me this look, like I was some hired help she had to explain things to. "Just make sure she's ready by 6 p.m. on Sunday. I have yoga at 7. That yoga class she was always running off to? Yeah, we'll get to that later. Weekends with Lily were both heaven and hell. Heaven because I got to be with my little girl, and hell because I knew those moments were numbered. Every moment felt precious and terrifying at the same time. We'd build pillow forts in my new apartment, a depressing 1-bedroom that cost way too much because I needed to stay in Lily's school district. We'd bake cookies, watch Disney movies, and go to the park, trying to pack a whole week's worth of love and attention into 48 hours. Lily would ask about my day, tell me about her friends at school, and show me new ballet moves she was learning. She seemed okay on the surface, but I could tell something was off. She was quieter than usual, clingier. and would wake up in the middle of the night asking if I was still there. "Daddy, why don't I see you every day anymore?" Lily asked one night as I was tucking her in. It broke my heart. What do you tell a 4-year-old? That mommy's turned into someone we don't recognize? That daddy's trying his best but the system's rigged? Sometimes grown-ups need to live in different houses, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. But I love you more than anything in the whole world. You know that, right? She nodded, hugging her stuffed elephant, the one I got her when she was born. I love you too, Daddy. Can you read me another story? I read her 3 more stories that night. I would have read 100 if she'd asked. The drop-offs were always the worst. Lily would cling to me, crying and begging to stay longer. Olivia would stand there checking her watch, acting like we were causing a huge inconvenience. She does this every time, Olivia would say, rolling her eyes. You're making it worse by dragging it out. Just go already. I started noticing changes in Lily after she'd been with Olivia. She'd come back with expensive new toys, but wearing the same clothes I'd sent her in, now dirty or stained. Her hair would be tangled, like no one had bothered to brush it. She'd be exhausted and cranky from lack of sleep. When I brought it up at our next court date, Olivia's lawyer smoothly interjected, Your Honor, Mr. Clark is clearly trying to weaponize normal childhood behaviors against my client. Children get dirty, they play hard. Miss Clark is providing excellent care while also trying to rebuild her life after years of being financially controlled. The judge nodded sympathetically at Olivia, who had magically produced tears right on cue. I was learning fast that perception meant everything in family court, and Olivia was a master at manipulating perceptions. Each court appearance chipped away more of my rights. The temporary custody arrangement became semi-permanent. My child support payments increased. Olivia's demands grew more outlandish. She needed more money for Lily's activities that I was never informed about, for educational supplies I never saw, for medical expenses despite Lily being on my insurance. Through it all, I kept showing up. I kept fighting. I kept trying to be the dad Lily deserved, even as the system seemed determined to reduce me to nothing more than a paycheck. While all this was going down, I was still trying to keep my career together. Executive protection isn't like regular security work. You can't check out mentally. One mistake and someone could get hurt, or worse. I was pulling 60, 70-hour weeks, trying to bank extra money because I knew Olivia's demands would clean me out. My schedule was brutal. 5 a.m. wake up, hit the gym. I couldn't let myself get soft in my line of work. 6:30 a.m. get ready for work. 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. executive protection shifts. 9:30 p.m. try to FaceTime Lily before bed, when Olivia would allow it. 10 p.m. meal prep, then try to sleep and fail, often ending up doing push-ups until exhaustion finally took over. The lack of sleep was getting to me. I'd catch myself zoning out during client briefings or missing details I never would have missed before. The divorce was consuming my thoughts, eating away at my focus. My boss, Garrett, was an old military buddy who'd given me my start in the private sector. He pulled me aside one day after I nearly dozed off during a client briefing. "Brother, what's going on with you?" he asked, concern evident in his voice. "Clients are starting to notice you're not yourself." I told him everything. The divorce, the custody battle, Olivia's demands, all of it. Garrett listened with that old sergeant's patience I remembered from our service days. "Look," he said finally, "you know I've got your back. But in our line of work, we can't afford distractions. These clients trust us with their lives." He offered me 2 weeks of paid leave, more than generous in our industry. I spent those 2 weeks trying to get my life in order, meeting with Thomas, organizing my finances, and trying to build a case for more custody. When I returned to work, I thought I had it under control. I was wrong. 3 weeks after coming back, I was assigned to a high-profile client, a tech billionaire who'd received death threats. It was a standard protective detail, something I could have handled in my sleep before all this started. We were at a restaurant, with the client seated with his back to the wall as protocol dictated. I was scanning the room, doing all the right things on autopilot, when my phone buzzed. It was Olivia sending a photo of Lily at the hospital. No context, no explanation. Just my little girl looking scared and hooked up to monitoring equipment. I texted back frantically, "What happened? Is she okay? Which hospital?" No response. I called. Straight to voicemail. I called her mother. No answer. I was freaking out, trying to maintain professional composure while my insides were being shredded with worry. Then I caught movement from the corner of my eye. Someone approaching our table too fast, hand reaching inside their jacket. In any other circumstance, my training would have kicked in automatically. I would have stepped between the threat and the client, and neutralize the situation. Instead, I hesitated, just for a split second. But in our line of work, that's all it takes. It turned out the guy was just a fan wanting an autograph, pulling out a notebook, not a weapon. Crisis averted, but the client noticed my delay. So did the team lead. Later that night, after finally confirming that Lily was fine, it was just a routine checkup, Olivia's way of screwing with me, I got a call from Garrett. "This isn't working, man. I'm sorry." 2 months later, I was called into the office. 2 clients had complained about my lack of focus. 15 years of perfect service, 8 in the Marines, 7 in private security, and just like that, I was out. The severance was decent, but with Olivia's demands and the legal fees piling up, it wouldn't last long. "Is there anything I can do?" I asked Garrett, hating how desperate I sounded. He looked genuinely sorry. "Not right now. Get your personal life sorted, then we can talk. This industry is small. People remember both the good and the bad." I cleared out my desk while my now former colleagues awkwardly avoided eye contact. 15 years of exemplary service, multiple commendations, and a spotless record, all wiped out because Olivia couldn't be bothered to send a follow-up text about our daughter being in the hospital. When I confronted her about it later, she just shrugged. "I thought you should know she was at the doctor. Not my fault you overreacted." "I lost my job because of that stunt," I told her, trying to keep my voice down because Lily was in the next room. Olivia actually smiled. "Well, that should make for an interesting conversation in court when you try to explain why you can't afford child support anymore." That's when I realized she'd done it deliberately. She wanted me to lose my job. She wanted me to fail. Because then she could paint me as a deadbeat dad who couldn't keep it together, who couldn't provide for his kid. It was all part of her plan. The job market for specialized security work is weird. Either you're in or you're out, and word travels fast. A few of my old contacts tried to help, but nobody wants to take a chance on a guy going through a messy divorce. I started applying for everything: mall security, night watchman, bouncer, anything to keep money coming in. Most places wouldn't touch me. Overqualified was the common response, which I knew was code for too expensive or flight risk. They assumed I'd leave once something better came along. I finally landed a gig doing overnight security at a storage facility. Minimum wage, no benefits, graveyard shift. It was a far cry from executive protection, but it was something. The schedule was brutal in a different way. Working nights meant I barely saw daylight and barely slept. On the few weekend days I had with Lily, I was a zombie, forcing myself to stay awake and present for her. After 4 months of nothing but rejection and watching my savings drain away, Thomas, my lawyer, started making noises about his fees. My apartment complex sent notices about late rent. Child support payments kept coming due, no matter how empty my bank account was. The first time I missed a child support payment, Olivia blew up my phone with texts. "Where's my money? I knew you'd turn out to be a deadbeat. Hope you enjoy jail. Lily deserves better than you." Each message felt like a knife twisting in my gut. I'd never missed a payment for anything in my life. I had a perfect credit score and always paid my bills early. Now I was the guy who couldn't provide for his kid. I went to court to explain my situation and ask for a temporary reduction until I could get back on my feet. I brought all my job applications, rejection letters, and bank statements showing I was nearly wiped out. Olivia showed up in another designer outfit, her lawyer looking smug next to her. "Your Honor," her lawyer started, "what we have here is a classic case of voluntary unemployment. Mr. Clark deliberately took a lower-paying position to avoid his obligations to his child. He's working beneath his qualifications by choice." The judge looked at me skeptically. "Is that true, Mr. Clark?" I tried to explain about the job loss, about the industry blacklisting, about applying for everything I could find, but it all sounded like excuses, even to my own ears. "The child support order stands," the judge ruled. "If you fall into arrears, there will be consequences." Consequences, right. I picked up a second job stocking shelves at a grocery store during the day before heading to the storage facility at night. 4 hours of sleep became the norm. My health started to suffer. I lost weight, had dark circles under my eyes, and battled constant fatigue. Lily noticed during one of our weekends together. She touched my face, her small fingers gentle with concern. "Daddy, are you sick?" I forced a smile. "Just a little tired, sweetheart. Daddy's working a lot right now." "Is it because of the money Mommy says you owe her?" she asked innocently. "She told Grandma you're not paying for my ballet classes anymore." That hurt worse than anything. Olivia using Lily as a pawn, making her worry about adult problems. I made sure never to speak ill of Olivia in front of Lily, but she had no such reservations about poisoning our daughter against me. After 2 more missed payments, the warnings from the court got more serious. I sold my car. I sold my watch. I sold anything of value just to catch up. I started surviving on ramen and peanut butter sandwiches. I picked up odd jobs on my days off. Mowing lawns, painting houses, whatever paid cash. Then came that morning. 8 a.m. loud pounding on my apartment door. I was already up, actually. Old military habits die hard, even when you're depressed. 2 cops were standing there, looking uncomfortable. "Sir, we have a warrant for your arrest for failure to pay child support." The younger cop clearly didn't want to be there. Maybe he'd heard about my military service. In a small town, word gets around. The older one just looked tired, like he'd done this too many times before. They were professional about it, at least. They let me change into proper clothes and didn't make a scene. But walking out of my apartment building in handcuffs? That hits different. The holding cell was everything you'd expect. Cold, smelly, depressing. But the worst part was sitting there thinking about Lily. What would Olivia tell her? That Daddy's a criminal? That he didn't love her enough to pay? I tried calling Thomas from the jail phone, but his secretary said he couldn't represent me anymore due to my outstanding legal bills. Perfect. The public defender they assigned me looked about 12 and had a caseload that would break a seasoned attorney. He barely glanced at my file before my court appearance. "Just tell the judge you'll pay," he advised during our 5-minute consultation. "That's all they want to hear." "With what money?" I asked, frustration evident in my voice. "I'm already working 2 jobs. I've sold everything I own." He shrugged, already looking past me to his next case. "Figure it out, or you'll be back here in a month." The judge was unimpressed with my situation. "Mr. Clark, the court doesn't care how you meet your obligations, only that you do. Your child deserves support." I wanted to scream about all the ways I'd supported Lily that had nothing to do with money. The bedtime stories, the swimming lessons, the doctor visits, about how Olivia was using the system to destroy me while pretending it was all about Lily's welfare. Instead, I just nodded and promised to pay. I spent 3 days in county jail before a former military buddy found out and posted my bail. 3 days of missing work and therefore not getting paid. 3 days of missing my scheduled weekend with Lily. 3 days of sinking even lower than I thought possible. County jail gives you a lot of time to think. I kept to myself, did push-ups in my cell, and tried to maintain some kind of routine. The other guys mostly left me alone. Maybe they could tell I wasn't the usual type they got in there. When I got out, there was a stack of mail waiting at my apartment. Bills mostly, and a thick envelope with no return address. It turned out to be a letter from Nathan, my old teammate from the security company and one of the few guys I truly trusted. The letter was thick, and as soon as I started reading, I understood why. "Brother, I've been carrying this for too long," he wrote. "You deserve to know the truth." Nathan laid it all out in excruciating detail. He'd been doing security for high-end hotel events and had seen Olivia there multiple times with her yoga instructor, a guy named Ethan. But they weren't doing yoga. "First time I saw them, I thought I was mistaken," Nathan wrote. "But then it kept happening. Different hotels, different events, but always them. Always looking too close to be just friends. I took photos, kept a log of dates and times. I know this is going to hurt, but there's more." The next part of his letter made me physically sick. The timeline doesn't add up. Olivia was seeing Ethan before Lily was born. Way before. I've got security footage timestamps that prove it. I've been sitting on this info for years, man. When you guys seemed happy, I couldn't bring myself to wreck your family. But now that she's putting you through hell, you deserve to know what you're fighting for. Inside the envelope were dozens of photos. Olivia and Ethan at hotels, restaurants, shopping together. Some were dated from before our wedding. Some from when she was pregnant. Some from just weeks ago. Sitting in my crappy apartment, looking at those photos, everything started making sense. All those late-night yoga classes, the weird work schedule she claimed Ethan had, the way she'd get defensive if I ever suggested joining one of her classes, and Lily. God, Lily. I stared at her photo on my nightstand, really looking at her features for the first time with this new knowledge. Her blue eyes, mine are brown. Her hair color lighter than mine or Olivia's. The way she smiled. I had always thought she got that from my mom. Had I been willfully blind all these years? Had I seen what I wanted to see because I loved that little girl so damn much? I called Nathan immediately, my hands shaking so badly I could barely dial. "Why now?" I asked when he picked up. "Why not when it could have saved me all this hell?" Nathan sounded genuinely remorseful. "I thought about it every day, man." But you seemed happy. You loved that kid so much. I couldn't be the one to destroy that. Then when the divorce happened, I figured you guys had your reasons, that maybe things had just run their course naturally. So what changed? I asked, my voice tight with emotion. I saw Olivia and Ethan at another event last week. I overheard them laughing about you, about how they were taking you for everything. That's when I knew I couldn't keep quiet anymore. I sat with this information for a whole day, trying to process it. Part of me wanted to confront Olivia immediately, to scream and rage at her for years of lies. But the Marine in me, the tactician, knew better. This was ammunition, possibly the only kind that could help me in this war she'd started. I went to the storage facility that night, worked my shift in a daze. When morning came, instead of going home to sleep, I went to a different lawyer's office, one recommended by Nathan, who specialized in paternity fraud. As soon as I got out of jail, I contacted this new lawyer and showed him Nathan's letter, the photos, everything. He didn't sugarcoat it. "This is going to get ugly," he said, looking through the evidence. "But if what your friend documented is true, we can probably get the child support orders thrown out. First thing we need is a DNA test." Getting the test ordered wasn't easy. Olivia fought hard, claiming I was just trying to avoid my responsibilities. But the judge looked at Nathan's evidence and approved it. The 2 weeks waiting for results were the longest of my life. I spent hours staring at photos of Lily, looking for, I don't know what. Signs? Clues? Some hint that I should have seen. I didn't sleep much during those weeks. The results came in a plain white envelope. There was a lot of medical terminology and plenty of numbers, but only one that mattered. 0.00% probability of paternity. I didn't cry. I didn't yell. I didn't do anything for about an hour. I just sat there holding that paper, feeling like someone had ripped my heart out. When I finally could move again, I called my lawyer. His tone changed immediately when I told him the results. "This changes everything," he said, suddenly energized. "We're going to file to vacate all child support orders, and if she's been collecting from the biological father too, we're looking at fraud charges." My lawyer called later that day with more news. "We did some digging. She's been collecting child support from Ethan too, double-dipping the whole time. This is fraud, clear and simple." The next few weeks were a whirlwind of legal activity, subpoenas flying, bank records being pulled, Olivia's carefully constructed house of cards beginning to collapse. Through it all, I couldn't stop thinking about Lily. Biologically, she wasn't mine. But in every way that mattered, every bedtime story, every scraped knee, every middle-of-the-night comfort, she was my daughter. The thought of never seeing her again was unbearable. "What about custody?" I asked my lawyer during one of our meetings. He gave me a sympathetic but realistic look. "Legally, you have no standing now that paternity has been disproven. But given the circumstances, the fraud, potential criminal charges, we might be able to make a case for some kind of visitation based on your established relationship. It's a long shot, though. Long shot or not, I had to try. Lily was the only thing in this whole mess worth fighting for. Court day was surreal. Olivia showed up in a designer dress that probably cost more than my monthly rent, fresh from some expensive salon appointment. Her lawyer tried spinning a story about her being confused about the paternity, claiming she truly believed I was Lily's father. Then my lawyer started laying out the evidence. Bank statements showing child support deposits from both me and Ethan, hotel receipts going back years, security footage from multiple locations, text messages between Olivia and Ethan discussing their plan, and medical records showing she knew about the paternity all along. The judge's face got darker with each piece of evidence. By the end, he wasn't even trying to hide his disgust. "Mrs. Clark, what you've done here goes beyond simple fraud," he said, his voice stern. "You've intentionally deceived two men, manipulated the court system, and most importantly, used an innocent child as a pawn in your scheme. This court takes a very dim view of such actions." Then came the most satisfying moment of the entire ordeal. The judge looked directly at Olivia, his expression harder than I'd seen in all our previous appearances. "The court finds clear and convincing evidence of fraud. All child support orders are hereby vacated. Mr. Clark is entitled to restitution for all payments made, plus interest. Furthermore, I am referring this case to the district attorney's office for criminal prosecution." Olivia's face went white. This wasn't how her script was supposed to play out. She'd been so certain of victory, so confident in her ability to manipulate the system, that she hadn't prepared for this outcome. "But, Your Honor," her lawyer stammered, "my client is the primary caregiver for a young child. Surely you wouldn't. Counsel, the judge interrupted. Your client has committed fraud against this court and against two individuals. The fact that she has a child doesn't grant her immunity from the consequences of her actions. Olivia was arrested right there in the courtroom. The schadenfreude was so intense I could practically taste it. She was eventually sentenced to 3 years for fraud, but here's where karma really kicked in. During booking, they found her designer purse stuffed with illegal pills. Not just a few, but enough to add intent to distribute charges. That 3-year sentence turned into 7 real quick. The best part? Ethan disappeared to Mexico when the child support orders came down. Apparently, he had his own legal issues we didn't know about. 2 weeks ago, I got a call from Olivia's sister. Olivia's found God in prison, wants to apologize, and claims she's a changed woman who sees the error of her ways. She wants my help getting her sentence reduced. You know what I told her sister? New phone, who this? As for Lily, her situation initially broke my heart. With her mom in prison and her biological dad on the run, she was headed for foster care. Despite not being her biological father, I petitioned the court for custody based on our established relationship and the fact that I was the only stable parent figure she'd ever known. It was an uphill battle. The system isn't designed for situations like ours. But sometimes, just sometimes, the right thing prevails. Lily's living with me now. I have full custody since both biological parents are out of the picture. It's not easy explaining to a 4-year-old why mommy's gone, but we're making it work. I've got a new job managing security for a major hotel chain. Better hours, better pay, and I'm home every night. That's the best revenge. Lily's thriving. Her teachers say she's happier than ever. She's making friends, doing great in her activities, and actually sleeping through the night now. Something that never happened when Olivia was around. And Olivia? Last I heard, prison food isn't quite up to her usual standards. I guess karma really is the ultimate gold digger.